Well, we're back here on the Beyond the Flags podcast, and joining me, the 2019 Cottage Speedway Friesen Performance IMC Northern Sport Mod champion, talking about David Schmidt, who lives in Roseburg, Oregon, originally from the Junction City, Eugene area of the Beaver State. David already a third-place finish April 20th at the season opener at Cottage Grove Speedway. He is set to be in action at the Douglas County Dirt Track in Roseburg, Oregon, a brand new sanctioned facility for the Speedway Motors IMC weekly racing program. That and more coming up. Well, welcome back to the Beyond the Flags podcast. My next guest with me is David Schmidt, who drives the number 9 Friesen Performance IMC Northern Sport Mod, calling Roseburg, Oregon home, has been for a number of years now. And David, it's always great to get a chance to catch up with you and talk about racing.
Yeah, it's always good to talk with you too.
Well, everybody loves origin stories, and I'm a history guy, and I like to know everything. You and I, we go way back, almost to when I started announcing, and I recall the first time I ever really saw you kind of doing stuff was in the cage kart scene. I know you ran some micro sprints for a little bit, and actually you did some flagging at Salem Indoor Speedway for a little bit.
I did. I think it was 1 or 2 seasons there indoor. Well,
and how did everything start for you getting involved as a cage kart racer?
Actually, that was Shane Forte. I had a sprint car, and I was getting it all put together, and I was kind of wanting to do something just to get my feet in the door. And so Shane Forte hooked me up with Stephen Horner, and he had an old cage kart laying out back, and we put it together in a weekend, and that's how it kind of started.
And then at one point in time you had a micro sprint, right? Or like a 250 micro, not a 600?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And then before that, prior to getting cage kart racing or anything, what was your introduction to racing, or was it kind of through Shane, watching him race at places like Cottage Grove?
My dad and grandfather, my uncle also, they all raced back at Eugene Speedway, and my dad was the 2-time track champion there, I believe.
Okay,
is what I was told. And so I always just kind of grew up around it when I was a kid. I didn't really have the means to start until I was older. My parents kind of said if I wanted to do it, I needed to do it on my own.
Mm-hmm. I
actually bought my first car when I was 14, and it was a Hornet that I was going to run out at Eugene Speedway, but I just didn't quite get it all put together.
Mm-hmm.
So that just kind of moved on. I actually bought a few years later, I attempted to do it again, and bought a street stock from Frank, and the cards just weren't on the table, I don't think yet, and just wasn't quite ready. And then I just kind of went all for it, and I don't know why I started with a sprint car. I just kind of liked them and thought, you know what, I want to get one of those.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong on my timetable in history. That would have been you starting sprint cars, what, about 2006, 2007, or was it a little bit before that?
I think you're about right. It might have been 2000. Let's see here. My daughter was born in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
And so I believe it was the year after, maybe a little bit before that. So in 2005, but mainly 2006, 2007.
Okay. And of course, Frank, referencing for people who don't know, Frank Brewer, who's a staple when it comes to lending help to a lot of racers in the state of Oregon, specifically, the Eugene, Cottage Grove area with Weston Performance.
Yes, correct.
So you start racing. I remember it well, running, racing sprint cars, and then, occasionally still, in the wintertime doing the cage kart scene. And then all of a sudden you transition to modifieds. What was the thinking there? Was it a different challenge that you wanted to take on, or how did that all come to be?
I just was not having very good luck in the sprint car. I think in the 1.5 to 2 years that I attempted to race, I think I only got 2 full nights of racing.
Okay.
Something always happened. I think we went through 7 motors in that 1.5, 2 years. It just, for being a kind of, I guess, not having a lot of sponsors and just kind of doing it out of my own pocket, I just couldn't afford it, but I still wanted to race. And so Mike McCann, he was kind of helping me out a little bit with my motors and stuff. And he's like, I don't want to see you give up racing. Why don't you just try a different class?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when I just kind of gravitated over to the modified.
And in that transition, that had to have been a challenge because, obviously sprint car racing is a challenge of its own. And then you get to the modifieds where, when you were starting out in that division, I want to think like it was easy to have 28 cars for modifieds at Cottage Grove on any given night.
Yeah. And I believe it was open comp rules too.
Yeah. Yes. Anything goes. Yeah.
Yeah. So that, it was a challenge. I really enjoyed it. Not to say that I didn't like the sprint car thing, because I really did. I just didn't have enough knowledge, I guess, to do it right. I've always said I'd kind of like to do it again, just because I feel like I failed at it, and I know I could have done better than what I did.
Sure. I can understand and respect that. And as you mentioned, like, it was kind of the wild, wild west out here for a while when it came to modified racing. And then 2013, pretty much the whole Northwest goes IMCA sanction. And I'm trying to think at that time, let's see, were you racing modifieds in 2013? Now I'm really testing my memory.
I think I had just built a motor, open comp motor, kind of was going all in to kind of up my program a little bit. And I didn't know we were going to switch over the rules. So now my new motor wasn't really legal.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I ran it a couple times anyways. I mean, just because I got a different modified, it was a 4-bar car to try to keep up with the times. And I just wasn't happy with it. And so I actually went out and found an older late model and kind of dipped my hands in a little bit of late model racing for a couple of years. Okay.
And that experience for you, I mean, it, no doubt that had to have been happy, open motor with the, big horsepower type car, and you can really giddy up on those things.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I actually got my first win in a late model. We ran over Coos Bay with it and Cottage Grove. I think I had a couple seconds at Grove, a couple wins at Coos Bay. I won their Outlaw show, their open comp show one time. So we had pretty good success in that.
Well, and then we speed things up kind of to where things are now. I know there was a period where you were kind of balancing between street stocks and the IMC Northern Sport Mods. Trying to think, for you, what made that decision to go sport mod racing versus staying with the late models or going back to an IMC modified?
Yeah, I picked up a street stock. My grandpa always liked street stocks, so I was kind of just having a little bit of fun with the street stock thing. I ended up selling the late model again. I just really couldn't afford the late model and stay competitive. And so I kind of was racing the street stock a little bit. And then I met my wife, Melinda, and we kind of raced the street stock for one season. And then over the winter, it was her idea to get another modified.
Okay. And which ended up being sport mod racing. By that time, it had kind of sort of developed into a full swing thing where that class was starting to get going.
Yes. Yeah. And I believe that was our full season was the 2019.
Okay. And it wound up being a successful one because you won the championship at Cottage Grove Speedway.
Yeah, it was actually really good. Came back. We bought an older car down in California and we just brought it up just to kind of have fun with it. And we actually ended up doing really well. We had a few wins and then ended up winning the championship.
And then if I recall that year, you guys were very competitive in the street stock. I mean, there was many nights where you were doing double duty. That had to have been a really big challenge for you mentally, physically. But, I mean, it proved dividends by winning the title.
Yeah, it did. And I really enjoyed doing the double duty thing.
Sure.
It's kind of funny, but I remember one time I was at Willamette and I brought the street stock and I had my late model there. And I ran the street stock as a street stock, obviously, and I jumped it up to their sportsman division and ran the late model. So I ran 3 divisions in the same night.
Okay. Hey, it's all about laps, right? That's the name of the game.
It is, and it's hard to get that around here because sometimes we just have bad weather and you just don't get to race very much. So
sure. I mean, I think I've told you this, that a lot of the times, and I'm sure you've been asked this too when you've traveled out of town, you get asked, well, how many tracks are in the Pacific Northwest? And it's, well, we have this many tracks. Oh, wow. Well, which one goes on what day? I'm like, well, they all pretty much race on Saturday. So they're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Because there's places that is, strictly Thursdays, strictly Fridays, strictly Sundays, and then strictly Saturdays. It's a little bit of a culture shock when you hear that, or you go travel elsewhere and see that.
Yeah, exactly.
And well, speaking of tracks, Friday night, Douglas County Dirt Track with an opener. They're fully IMCA sanctioned. That was a bit of exciting news that happened over the off season, and for you, that's got to feel like one of the greatest things in the world because it's a home game for you, and your car's 100%. You don't need to change anything. That's the great thing about IMCA. Not trying to, I'm on my IMCA soapbox, but then also, you're not having to log a lot of miles to go from track to track.
No, it is kind of nice because I think we live 10 minutes from the track. So, okay. Yeah. As of right now, our plan is to run the stock car there. I'm trying to convince the wife to let me bring both cars, so we'll just see how it goes.
Sure. And are you going to try and balance that a little bit to where going to run some IMCA stock car stuff, but also throw in occasionally the sport mod?
Yeah, that was our plan. I think we're going to run the sport mod a little bit more than the stock car this year. We made a pretty good schedule. I think we had about 40 races on there.
Okay.
I know some of them got rained out, but yeah, it's tough with the stock car because it's not a very many tracks run it consistently. So, but I really enjoy running the stock car. It's just trying to find a track that will let us run a little bit more with it.
And what's great about Roseburg, the track there, Douglas County Dirt Track, is they're predominantly Friday nights. And, there we go. We were talking about all these places elsewhere that, they change it up, and, it is what it is out here. It's nobody's necessarily individual fault. They're doing what works, right? It's a winning formula for them to all race on Saturdays. And, it's an opportunity for more laps, right? Multiple nights of racing. That's why drivers really rise to the occasion because they're able to race just so much in a short span of time.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what that's why we kind of made a little bit bigger schedule for ourselves this year. We didn't race a lot last year, maybe about 15, 16 times. So Melinda and I said, you know what, let's just kind of go all out this year. And we started this year off. We went to Arizona, and then so now we're just going to hit quite a few tracks and races this year.
Yeah, I thought I saw you down there for the second week of the IMCA TV Winter Nationals at Dacotah.
Yeah, we had bad luck, but that was a good experience. And I think next year we want to go for both weeks.
Sure. And it's, I mean, again, that race is tough. I mean, you're at the same track running multiple nights. It's not like Super Nationals, the Speedway Motors IMCA Super Nationals fueled by Casey's at Boone, where, you qualify on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and this division qualifies on Monday and Tuesday only. This deal, you're running every single night, and but again, you get a lot of racing in just a couple weeks, and you get to go up against some of those, for us folks here in the Pacific Northwest, the guys you read about, the guys that are running up front in the big dance on Saturday night at Super Nationals, some of the hitters of the Southwest, and some of the top names in the country with the Speedway Motors IMCA Weekly Series.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to get better unless you run against, that kind of competition. And around here, the competition in the sport mod is it's insane right now. I mean, it's really tough. It's probably one of the tougher classes right now. And again, with the stock car, Kevin Roberts is a guy that races everywhere. And I'm hoping that he'll be there tomorrow night just because of that fact right there.
Sure. Well, I mean, you go back to the sport mod culture that's really developing here in the Pacific Northwest. There's 3 races that pay over $5,000, and potentially somebody could walk away with about $30,000 if they win just 3 races. It's insane and mind-boggling on so many levels.
Yeah, who would ever have thought that the sport mods would kind of overtake the modifieds in the big money races?
Well, and going back to something, racing the stock car, for you, I mean, you seem to enjoy that. That hasn't been a difficult transition, has it, from, let's say, the street stock? Is it been pretty seamless, or has there been a lot of things that you've been having to adjust?
Not really. Drivability, I think they're pretty close to the same. I don't think there's that much really difference. Yeah, there's a horsepower difference, but, a lot of times around here, the tracks are all drive slick, and it's hard to get that power to the ground anyway. So I would have to say they're pretty equal.
Are you looking to find that adrenaline rush, but you can't because you're not at the racetrack? Well, check out the IMCA TV Replay subscription library to have access to thousands of hours of racing for just $24.99 a month. Relive all the moments of the Speedway Motors IMCA Super Nationals fueled by Casey's at Boone Speedway, the Harris Clash at Deer Creek Speedway in Spring Valley, Minnesota, the IMCA TV Winter Nationals at Dacotah Speedway in Somerton, Arizona, Florida's Clash on the Coast, and dozens of Speedway Motors IMCA weekly racing program racetracks from across the nation, as well as the IMCA TV Dirtcast podcast. Plus, 25% of that $24.99 monthly fee goes towards the Drivers Point Fund and is a great way to help out your local racers. In 2023, over $97,000 was paid out to IMCA drivers directly at over 50 racetracks across the country. Please note that live broadcasts are not part of the replay subscription. That's IMCA TV. IMCA TV, where America comes to watch racing. Well, I know that for a long time you ran the number 15, but recently, when I say recently, the last, 6-7 years, thereabout, you switched to the number 9. What's the story with that? Why or it's been 9S, but why number 9?
Actually, number 9 is my daughter's birth date.
Okay.
On the car, it actually is a small 9, and then the big 9, and then 05.
Oh, so technically it's a 4-digit number.
Technically, yes, if you want to get technical, there is a 2-digit 9 on the front, and the 2-inch number on the front and 2 2-inch numbers on the back.
Well, this is crazy. So obviously you go to a race like, Winter Nationals or Super Nationals. There's going to be a 9. There's going to be a 99. And get this, there's not a 990, but there's a 980 with Caden Woody from Minnesota. So you're almost having to use the full 4 digits. Man, yeah. That's rather remarkable. But that's a really cool deal. And your cars are always looking sharp with that livery of, the black and the purple and the green that you combine it with.
Yeah, we kind of, a few years back, we kind of just, Melinda saw a car over in Vegas one year, and she liked the color scheme, and we kind of just stuck with it.
Well, Roseburg, Oregon, it hasn't been your home forever, but it's been your adoptive home. You spent a lot of years there now. What are things that you and Melinda like to do, or you and your family like to do when racing isn't happening or you're not working on race cars?
We play around with our horses a little bit now, and we go to a lot of concerts.
Okay.
Just take little vacations here and there.
Hey, sometimes you need like a scenery break, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes we're just in the eye of the hurricane for so long, and it's like then we step out of that and we think, what's going on? This is crazy. I don't know what to do when everything's rained out.
Yeah, and honestly, sometimes it's more her idea to go to these big races than it is my idea.
Sure, yeah. She's the team principal.
She is.
Yeah, for sure. Well, for people that have never been to Roseburg and, with them being sanctioned now and, expecting some folks to be frequenting there, or maybe they're looking to go there for the IMCA Wild West Shootout, what are things that you like to do or suggest that people can do, like in the Roseburg area? Because it's crazy to me. It's like, 50,000, 60,000 people, but it's like a big city, but it's a small town where, like, everybody knows each other.
Yeah, that's very true. I guess it just all depends on the time of year. They have like a blackberry festival, I think.
Okay.
Certain times of the year. There's a lot of hiking, waterfalls. With the river, there's good fishing.
Yeah,
you don't
the
even.
Umpqua, world famous.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of hotels where you can just walk right down to the river if you wanted to.
Sure. Have you had a chance to do that at all since you moved that way, or just no time?
Honestly, I'm not the big fisher in the family. That would be Melinda. And we were just talking about that the other day. And I think we're going to have to go get some new poles because she wants to go fishing.
Okay. There you go. There you go. Yeah, and what's beautiful about the track, the Douglas County Dirt Track, is the river just runs right there. It's just really scenic. And what I like about it is it's right off the freeway. Like, you don't have to snake through or anything, or it's not off the beaten path like 20 miles from the interstate. It's literally right there. Like, you just take whatever direction you're coming from, you just 2 turns and you're there.
I don't even think it's 100 yards off the freeway, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, good thing that the stands are pointed in the direction that they are. So, like, if there was dirt clods flying, they would be flying in incoming traffic. So,
yeah, no kidding.
yeah, exactly. Or a shock, shock or a coil spring. So, but awesome. Well, it's been great to catch up with you and to tell your story for folks out there of like, well, I heard about this guy, but what's he about, kind of thing. I know that to make racing possible, it takes a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of support though. And you've had a tremendous amount of support from so many people for so many years. And I just want to give you the floor to thank them or mention them.
Yeah, actually, that you speak of that so many years. Tom at Auto Service Express, he has been on my car since day one almost, for about 16 years now. He has stepped up to being one of our biggest sponsors now, which is great. We have a couple new ones this year: Oregon Motor Coach Center, Overhead Door in Eugene and Springfield, B&G Automotive. There's a lot of things I can't do without Ron Wilson. D&M Transporting, and my family. They're a huge supporter. They're out there almost every weekend, whether I'm at Lebanon or Cottage Grove. There's probably at least 10 family members that come every weekend.
That's super cool. I'm glad that you bring up Ron Wilson, because at one point you guys fielded a car for him.
I have a couple times, actually. I had a Super Sport, which was my first late model. We turned it into a Super Sport, and I let him run it a few times. And then he's helped me out so much over the last few years. After we won the championship, that last night of racing, we actually got in a big wreck, and it destroyed our car. Jesse Williams, his dad, had a car in the barn for many years. Ron drug it out of the bushes pretty much and spent all winter and rebuilt the car for me. And so we ran that for a year, and then I purchased my new car through Jordan Broughton, and we just gave that car back to Ron for a thank you for all the years of his help and support.
No, super cool. Super cool. Well, we know that time is of the essence, and you got to get ready for tomorrow's race. But I can't thank you enough, David, for coming on. For people that want to support you and the team, do you guys have any sort of apparel for sale right now? Are you looking at maybe making an apparel run for 2024?
We are working on some for this year. We do have some older T-shirts now that we're selling at $10 each.
Okay.
So pretty cheap. They're has just a modified on it, really nice T-shirt. So
okay, and best way, just show up at the track, or do you guys have a social media page that people can place online orders?
Yeah, pretty much just show up at the track.
All right. Well, looking forward to see you racing this year, and hopefully 2024 goes well. And good luck in Roseburg.
All right, thank you very much, Ben.
Well, race fans, that does it for this interview. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope that you continue to enjoy these upcoming interviews. We appreciate it if you would like and subscribe wherever you're listening, whether it's on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, wherever it's at. Give us a like and give us a subscription so that we can deliver more of these great interviews to you for your listening pleasure. In the meantime, wherever we're at, wherever you're listening, we hope you have a great rest of your day and a pleasant evening, and we will see you soon here at Highside Racing Promotions. Before we let everybody go, here's the upcoming schedule on IMCA TV of live pay-per-view events. Thursday, May 9th, going to be a busy night of action in the state of Iowa as Bloomfield Speedway gets underway, as well as Kossuth County Speedway in Algona, and also on the card, Park Jefferson International Speedway in Jefferson, South Dakota. Friday night, we'll kick off Davenport Speedway in Iowa, Mandan, North Dakota's Dacotah Speedway, Murray County Speedway in Slayton, Minnesota, Stewart International Speedway in Stewart, Iowa, Black Hills Speedway in Rapid City, South Dakota, and Saturday night, Crystal Motor Speedway in Michigan, Iowa's Boone Speedway, also in Iowa, Dacotah Speedway and Independence Motor Speedway, Eagle Raceway in Nebraska, Petaluma Speedway in California, Grays Harbor Raceway in Elma, Washington, Harlan, Iowa's Shelby County Speedway, Williston Basin Speedway in North Dakota, Southern Oklahoma Speedway in Ardmore, Oklahoma, Grayson County Speedway in Bells, Texas, Electric City Speedway in Great Falls, Montana, Cottage Grove Speedway in Oregon, Bakersfield Speedway in California, also in California, Marysville Raceway. Sunday will be full of action, featuring Interstate Speedway in Jefferson, South Dakota, Dubuque Fairgrounds Speedway in Iowa, and Nodak Speedway in Minot, North Dakota. And for more information, to check up the updated schedule and how to order your pay-per-view events, log on to imca.tv. That's imca.tv, where America comes to watch racing.